Good evening, Merry Christmas, or whatever other holiday you might be celebrating at this time. I hope you're having a good evening. This is middle-aged cartoonist checking in with you again with my character, the Mighty Energy Girl, or the Mighty Energy Woman. Sometimes we like to step outside the regular continuity of our comic strip and put our character into certain other situations. So in the past, I've taken you from a beginning sketch to a finished picture. I thought this time we'd do it the other way around. You are looking at what may be the last full picture of the year 2014 to feature the Mighty Energy Girl. Here she is paired with a couple people out of history. I'd like to introduce, on the left side of this locomotive, the one and only John Luther Casey Jones, the famous engineer. His 10-wheeler, number 382, for the Illinois Central Railroad. His conductor, Sim Webb. And the Illinois Central main line somewhere north of Vaughan, Mississippi, where a certain incident happened in history that for many, many years turned Casey Jones into a household name as one of the fastest and very most talented engineers of his era. And into this we drop the Mighty Energy Girl, otherwise known as Ellen Ann Peabody, who was born a good 50 years after Casey met his fate one dark evening near Vaughan, Mississippi. This is called an anachronism, if you want to use theater terms, where you take something from one time period and drop it into a time period it really doesn't belong, just for the fun of seeing what it would look like. Here we have Energy Girl somehow trying to stop Casey Jones's speeding train before they come around a curve and get a big surprise. Unfortunately, A, she doesn't know, in spite of her great strength, how to do it without derailing the train. It was a passenger train. And B, to prevent the upcoming collision would change history. And even a superwoman knows that that may be biting off a little bit more than she can chew. I'd remind you of some other movies on the subject of time travel and changing history where it didn't always go so well. So, here we have the last finished drawing of 2014, Energy Girl and Casey Jones. For those of you who would like to see how we get from the blank sheet to the finished work, first I'd like to submit as a few exhibits. Here are some lightly inked unfinished works of Energy Girl. I generally first draw lines in a very light pencil just to block in the shape, and then use a very, very fine point permanent black marker for the black inking work. This is followed by color-based color pens. Here we see an earlier rendition of Energy Girl before her hair turned brown in the costume I always wanted to give her, but no matter who you are, no matter how good you are, there are always certain things you can't do without practice or learning. And one of the things I can't yet do is I always wanted to give her a cheerleader skirt, but I cannot make it flow and twirl, for want of a better word, in a believable way. I'm working on it, but that's why this is not her regular uniform. Okay, thought we'd close by going clear back. Oh, what's under here? A blank piece of paper. So I thought we'd go clear back to the very beginning to show you the basic steps of how we get from here to there. We start with the good old famous number 2 pencil. Some people like to do great detail work in pencil, but for me, I prefer just to do the basic shapes. We call this blocking in, to just know where things are going to be, how they're going to fit together. One thing I like about superheroes, even a female one, very muscular superheroes, is it's really all about circles. Lots and lots of circles and circle-derived shapes. Okay, I don't know how much you can see, but there we have just the very basic outlines. We now come in with the very fine point permanent black pen. These are available by a number of manufacturers. This one is my favorite. I can't advertise, but you'll find it in the store if you want to. People sometimes say to me, well, what do you do if you make a mistake going so quickly to the black ink? And I just say you try to work it into the drawing. I was very very pleased when I had a niece that was learning how to play the piano. And when asked one time if she was scared of making mistakes, she said no, because I've learned that if you do, you don't tell anybody you've made one, you just kind of try to work it into the musical piece. And I thought, wow, I knew who she'd been watching, and I was quite honored. Got Energygirl's famous floating earrings here. Those of you who have watched the other short videos on this subject, you have really heard a lot about the various different procedures I use, so I'm not going to blab a whole lot about them here. These are the muscles that go up and behind her neck. It's been said, I know you've heard me say, you never want to bulk up a female, is what I've been told, but wanting to be different, I did, and guess what? Now other people do too. Oh well. This is called the bridge of the nose, and the little ball at the end, and then come up here to this is known by some in the science community as the supraorbital ridge, because in anatomy talk, the eyes are known as orbits. It's kind of strange, but that's what they're called. And the supraorbital ridge is, you'd think, just looking at it, that some design went into it. It's a ridge over the eyes to keep water and rain from getting in the eyes. Seems to make sense to me. Anyway, so we put it in. You got to have at least some knowledge of how the body is put together to get a believable cartoon out of it. But at the same time, we want to exaggerate a little bit the various different characteristics because cartooning is really a visual way of communicating. We use pictures and devices instead of words. So we give real long eyelashes to say female in this case. This is just a little bit hard because I'm my own cameraman here. Still definitely on a very meager salary, so I cannot afford to hire a cameraman. I just hold the camera with one hand and the pen with the other. I'm cheap. Someday when I'm rich and famous and rolling in money, firstly I'll be afraid that I'm going to wake up. But if I don't, if it ever really happens, I will buy a nice cameraman who can stay here and hold the camera while I do this. But don't hold your breath. There we have the famous E-girl curl that curls up from one side of her head. The hair curls up like that, but only on one side. When you say, why is that? I'll give you a hint. I have a friend who is a fine artist. Not a cartoonist, but a fine artist. And he says, if you want to learn how to draw something, go to the model. And what he means by that is find a real one and find out how it looks there and copy it. So you can trust me that somewhere out there, there is a woman in the real world who has hair that curls up on one side like that, who was my model for this hairstyle. We wanted the hairstyle to look just a little bit retro, and so I've aged it a little bit over the years. Energygirl was actually born back in the late 1950s, and she's been serving as a hero now for the better part of 30 years, and so I wanted to look just a little bit like yesterday's generation. However, with age comes wisdom, and as the story goes, she is looked upon as a role model and advisor to many of the younger heroes these days, simply because she's been doing it for so long and has very good experience, etc., etc., etc. Okay. We'll go back a little. We want to give her a very wide rib cage and upper body. This is one of we mentioned using various different things to denote, instead of words in cartooning, we use various different symbols and visual things to denote various things, and a very wide upper body and rib cage is one of the ways we denote strength. Notice the wide shoulders. I'm getting my hand dirty. That's why there's a little smudging. We'll work that into the drawing later. But one of the other things, of course, that is almost the universal sign for strength is large biceps. So even though she's not exactly flexing here, we do want to accentuate these muscles of the upper arms, as we can see kind of there. Now I'm deliberately leaving one part of the female anatomy out until last. It can be a careful balance because we want, all superheroes are exaggerated. And so we want E-Girl to obviously be shown to be a hero, that is to be, please pardon the pun, larger than life in a number of ways. But at the same time, we also want to maintain that this is a family-friendly strip that would not be ashamed to be found on any drugstore comic book rack. Again, so someone might go, oh no, she's not wearing any clothes, great Scott. Well, as we've said in past videos, if you're going to hang a door, for the door to fit correctly, you have to build the door frame first and then hang the door from it. In the same way, if we want clothes to look correct, we have to show the various different muscle group shapes underneath the clothes first. So we do like this first. Now we know where to put the clothes in. So in Energygirl's costume, one of the very famous hallmarks of her costume is what I like to call the horse collar, and that is there is a black or a red collar that comes just down to above her cleavage line there on the bottom, and then over to the shoulders, canted a little bit out, about 45 degrees at each shoulder, like that. And then the neckline comes down over these large muscles of her back that curl behind her neck like that. And then these mirror the line below it. There is a little dip right below what we call the Adam's apple. That's this right here. There. And there we have at least outlined the horse collar. We wanted to make her a bit different, so now those of you who read the Energygirl comic books know that she has a large letter E over her left breast. That more modern heroes often don't even have an insignia, but in Ellen's day, remember, she became a hero 30 years ago, at least officially started serving. And back in those days, the insignia was the way you told the world who you were. So everybody had an insignia, usually centered on their chest, but to be a little bit different, she had hers over on one side. Modern heroes, again, often may not have an insignia at all. Her protege, Fantastic, once said, when asked why she had no insignia, I would think just having a uniform at all speaks for itself. But Ellen is old school. Okay, put the top of what we call the diaphragm in right there, and the belt would come down below that. There, we now have the basic outline. Okay, students, here's a place where you do not want to forget. We want to put the date and our signature. The copyright sign never hurts, and I'm told that putting your domicile or place of residence technically is required to establish your copyright, so we add that too, and I like to put a little outline around it. And speaking of outlines, again, students from the past videos know that it's always good for me, since we don't want the character to be swallowed up by the background. Before we now go to the next step, which is the heavy inking, I get the heavier pen, a fine point, kind of like a strange term. The fine point pen is the heavy one, but for me it is. And we will do a general outline of the character, kind of like this, the major shapes that we need. But we'll do something more after that, and that is, let me just get this in here a little bit. You see how I'm outlining some of the major shapes, but now I want to put on what I call a halo. And that is a little, about a 1/16 of an inch white outline around the outside limits of the drawing. And there's a reason for this that we have talked about in the past. So you can see on the one side I've got the slight halo around the outside of the drawing. Since we're coming up to we're over 15 minutes, you're probably not going to see this drawing colored much. We're going to wrap it up in just a minute. But now that we've haloed, I just did it on the one side. See, there's no halo on this side yet, only on that side. Why don't we put the colors in? I guess I will put some colors in. Let me reach down into my little happy bag here and hopefully find the colors I need. I have a little Santa Claus bag here all filled with colors, and we're going to need that one, and we're going to need that one. Someone will say, why do you use this brand of colors? And as we've mentioned before, because this company is nice enough to put on the outside of their colors the name of the color, because good old cartoonist man here is quite colorblind, at least partially. I'm looking for a skin color. It is evading me at the moment. So we're just going to jump right in and go right around it and right to work with some other things, I guess. Hang on there. And here we go. Energygirl's costume is yellow. So we'll start in with the yellow here. Now, for those of you who are married, as am I don't care how famous a cartoonist you are. Did you see all those pens falling on the floor? When you're done, please do your wife a favor. Clean up your mess. Put your toys back in your toy box. You'll be glad you did. Energygirl is called the super school marm because sometimes she lectures people. I mean that in a very kind way. And so if she can do it, so can her creator. Put your crayons away when you're done. There used to be a book saying that you learned all kinds of cool things in kindergarten. Well, that's one thing sometimes I have to remind myself is put your toys away. Okay. I can see half of you just got up to go get a snack when I said that. One thing about our mighty school marm here, our super school marm, is she has gray hair. Fortunately, I can see the famous name on the side for us colorblind people. I can find the gray real quick, so we'll just put some of that in real quick here. Again, my apologies that the color for the flesh has eluded me. We'll just leave that white for the time being. And now we need a nice red. Let's see if I can find one of those real quick. Yes, I'm just kind of poking around here. Hang on just a moment. Great Scott. He should have had that all before he started. He should have had it all prepared ahead of time. You're right, but I didn't. So here we go. The E would be red. The gloves and the horse collar would be red. Okay. Now there are just two more quick things I want to demonstrate, and then we're done, and you can go back to watching the interesting videos. Okay, here we go. I've mentioned before, I don't like that one. Let's see what else we've got in here. Dum-da-dum-da-dum-dum-dum. I need a nice orange. Why am I going for orange, you ask? Oh, there's the flesh color. Please stand by. We'll get back to the orange in just a minute. Boy, he's boring tonight. Yeah, I know. It's late. There, much better. My early works always had the flesh just kind of left as the white paper, and you must admit, that's a big improvement. Okay. Nice baby blue eyes. I hope that's blue. Check. For those of you who are colorblind, please check the name on the side of the pen. Yes, I have messed some drawings up by not checking, and then, oh no! Anyway, okay. We'll come back to the orange in a minute because I'm having trouble finding one right now. But now I'm going to show you why we do the halo. You see that halo, that little 1/16 of an inch outline around the outside? Now watch what happens when I put the contrasting background color in next to our heroine's mighty figure here. We're moving very, very fast here. Not as fast as a speeding projectile fired by a small firearm, but nor as a cartoonist am I more powerful than one of those, well, you know. But we're moving as fast as I can. We're almost done. Those of you whose stomach are rumbling, be thinking of the snack you'd like to go get after you watch this and take your break before going back to, as I said, the interesting videos. And even his humor isn't very good on this one. I know. Okay, here we go. See, when you have, there's always the danger, especially when you have a dark background, of it swallowing up your foreground, your subject. When you have, it's amazing that just a little tiny white halo causes the foreground, E-girl in this case, to lift off the background. Little way of tricking the eye, but it works. Now, other thing we can do to trick the eye, notice E-girl's costume is two bright primary colors, red and yellow. Here we have the one right in the middle. This is orange, or for those of you more sophisticated, orange. Anyway, okay. Remember we said that a superhero's body is a lot about circles. Now, with a female, you know the obvious, I'm not going there. But even notice the biceps, the shoulders, even the Adam's apple, all circles. We can do a bit of light shading by using the next darker color than our base